In June 2022, a serial killer was on the loose in a rural community in India's mountainous Kashmir region. A leopard was prowling the villages. It was on the hunt, using the cover of darkness to secure its prey. 15-year-old Munir Ahmad was the first victim in a series of attacks that plagued the small villages in India's north. Sent out by his family to graze cattle on the nearby mountainside, Munir walked with the cows alone, ushering them along the track and onto the fresh pasture. But as evening fell and darkness spread across the land, a pair of eyes were watching him from a short distance away. In the gloom, a predator approached. Stealthily, it stalked closer, placing one foot in front of the other silently and slowly on the soft ground. It rushed at the youngster, pouncing on him from behind and delivering a fatal blow. He hadn't seen it coming. He had only momentarily felt the cat hit into him before crushing his neck with its powerful jaws. When Munir didn't return home the next day, his family went out looking for him. His body was discovered the following morning. He had been dragged from the field into the surrounding woodland and partially eaten. It was a shocking finding, and everyone was on high alert afterwards, and for good reason. The leopard now had a taste for human flesh. It knew that people were easy targets, and the following night it was back again. It could smell another person nearby and singled him out. This time it was 12-year-old Shahid Ahmed, also sent to graze his family's cattle, who fell victim to the leopard. It stalked nearer, and as darkness fell, it seized him in the night. His cries fell on deaf ears as he was dragged into the undergrowth. The local communities now knew that they had a predator on the loose, and it was deliberately plucking off villagers in the dusky light. The authorities were called, but little was done to keep the villagers safe. The regional wildlife warden, Rashid Nakash, unhelpfully said that the leopard could strike anywhere and at any time. A single trap was set up half-heartedly in the hope of catching the culprit. But the leopard was smart and cunning. It was suspicious of the trap and never attacked in exactly the same place twice. The villagers felt like they had been let down and that their safety wasn't being taken seriously. It wouldn't be until a third victim fell prey to the man-eating leopard that a hunt for the beast would be initiated. But even then, it would only be by the locals themselves and a handful of wildlife officials. A young girl who was playing a short distance from her home was taken just before bedtime. 8-year-old Rutba Manzoor was carried away in the darkness. Her screams were muted instantly as the predator secured its jaws around her neck. Her spinal column was severed and her windpipe crushed. She was dead within a matter of seconds. The leopard had struck again. Yet another family lost a young life to the deadly cat, and the community was sent into mourning once more. Rutba's body was discovered a short time later. Her loved ones wailed as the men carried her back to the village wrapped in a blanket. The grief that spread throughout the community was palpable, and it kick-started a hunt for the leopard. More than 50 locals joined in the search for the animal, dubbed the Beast of Baramulla. They set traps and scoured the woodland. Some found it prowling near a highway. They immediately lifted their mobile phones and began filming. The cat's eyes glinted in the beam of the flashlight as it stared at the hunting group. Then, quietly and slowly, it turned away from the camera and disappeared into the undergrowth. Despite every pair of eyes on the lookout for the elusive leopard, so far it had evaded capture. People were warned not to let their children play outside after dark. Schools changed their school day to begin at 9 a.m., encouraging pupils to only walk to class in daylight hours. Nobody felt safe whilst the predator was still out there. Indian leopards are opportunistic hunters and typically have a very broad diet. They take anything from peafowl, hares, and wild pigs to sambar deer, nilgai antelope, and axis deer. In rural regions of India, they often cause trouble with livestock, most often taking sheep and lambs. Although leopards can go more than 2 weeks without eating, they consume an average of 3 kilograms every day. But this doesn't necessarily mean they hunt every day. After a meal, they may rest for a day or two before hunting again. It seems that this is what the beast of Baramulla was doing. Only days after Rutba's tragic death, the leopard was back. It closed in on the village of Gopalpura in southern Kashmir. It could smell people in and around the small village and was determined to make another kill. As it approached, it spotted a potential target. 6-year-old Zubaida Jan was playing outside her home as darkness descended over the close-knit community. Her family had recently suffered from a leopard attack when her brother had been attacked the month before. Miraculously, he had survived the ordeal and lived to tell the tale, but his parents were on high alert. Suddenly, Zubaida's family heard screaming coming from outside their home. They rushed outside to find Zubaida missing from the spot where she had been playing. They called out to her in desperation, and her desperate screams were heard in response. In the gloom, they could just about make out the outline of a large cat carrying their 6-year-old daughter away. Her screams continued as she was dragged further and further from the home. Immediately, her parents chased after the leopard. Zubaida's scream alerted the other villagers, and they joined in the rescue mission. They ran into the forest, following the girl's cries. Although they couldn't see much in the dark, they followed the sound of the screams. She was still alive. She was still fighting for her life. They just had to reach her in time before she was taken away for good. But the leopard was strong and fast. Its powerful jaws clamped around Zubaida's head, securing her in its grip. Its night vision was far better than any human's, and it had stealth on its side. Only the girl's screams were giving away where she was. The jaguar needed to silence its prey to avoid detection. The adults from the village tore into the thick undergrowth, determined to find the youngster. But as time went on, her screams became more distant until they stopped altogether. Armed with wooden sticks and flashlights, some only using the light from the screens of their mobile phones, it was now like searching for a needle in a haystack. But they didn't give up. Zubaida's parents were distraught. For this to happen to their second child within a few weeks was so unlucky and deeply traumatizing for them. The jaguar had just readjusted its grip on the girl and delivered a fatal bite, closing its jaws around her neck and suffocating her. She was dead. The mob of angry villagers screamed and yelled. They whistled and they shouted, hoping that their loud noise would spook the leopard and it would run off and leave the girl alone. It worked. The leopard left its prey and slunk off into the undergrowth, instead watching on from a safe distance. After 30 minutes of searching, the villagers came across Zubaida's body. She had succumbed to her injuries and lay on the forest floor, her face covered in blood from the puncture wounds of the cat's canines. They had been just minutes too late, and now her grief-stricken family wailed into the night. The little girl was picked up and cradled in her mother's arms. She was the 4th victim to fall prey to the man-eating leopard, and it now seemed that the big cat would stop at nothing to secure its prey. It sought out the weak and vulnerable. It timed its attacks perfectly, waiting until the child was on its own and dusk fell. Under cover of darkness, it crept closer to its victims until it was close enough to pounce. Leopards have long posed a threat to rural communities in the Himalayan state. Since 2007, at least 231 people have been killed, and more than 2,810 have been left injured in leopard and bear attacks in Kashmir. The boundaries between human and wild animal habitat have become blurred. As people encroach on the animals' territories, they are putting both themselves and the wildlife at risk. But with an expanding human population, who can blame them for trying to make a living farming in the rich and fertile lands of the beautiful Kashmir Valley? The leopard has avoided being caught by local villagers looking for revenge for the people it's killed, and still roams the forest of Kashmir, waiting for more innocent children to wander off alone, to bring them as well to their terrifying final affliction.